back. We are here to talk about preparing our students for success in a post-COVID world. And of course, I already introduced my speakers, so I want to thank all of you for being on here with us today. And I'm going to jump straight into the questions, if that's all right with you. So the first one, I'll just go around with all of you, if you don't mind. Whitney, we'll start with you, then Joe, then Taisha, in that order, if you don't mind. So first off, I'd like to thank you all because we have a representative from pretty much multiple stages of the educational journey. We have a representative from high school, from county college, as community college, as well as in university levels. So that's pretty awesome. But I want to begin by talking about how education during COVID has affected the experience for the students and even for the teachers. So let's start there.
Ask me to start, right? Okay, so here at our university, I was actually just talking to someone about this earlier. I think once we found out about COVID, we had about 2 weeks to shift, and our students were on spring break. And so we shifted to an online format while they were on spring break, with a large population of our students being out of state. So we had a lot of shifting to do. We had to rethink and reimagine how we offer. We are definitely a community-based learning environment, and we had to completely shift from there through COVID. And that was the spring, and we were just trying to get through the spring. But then we actually returned to campus this fall and still offering some online courses, but students were here living in our residence halls. It definitely did shift the way that our community had to just interact with one another. I mean, we have students walking across campus with their mask on. If you're teaching inside the classroom, you're teaching and learning with your mask on. But aside of that, I think that something it taught us is that we can be innovative in how we approach learning, how we teach our students, how we build community amongst our students. I've been really concerned about some of our first year students who they entered our environment during this COVID time period and still finding ways. I think that our people in like student affairs did a great job of building programming to still connect students, even amidst like following CDC guidelines. But it definitely has shifted the way that we approach learning, the way that we approach building sense of belonging, but it's also allowed us to rethink of some of the ways that our students engage in general and thinking about specific populations of students. So.
Thank you. I really appreciate the question, and it's wonderful to be on such a prestigious panel with my distinguished colleagues. From a Dallas College perspective, I can tell you COVID, for the most part, just magnified individuals' experience. And so if you were struggling economically, COVID brought that out even in a more pronounced way, whether it was gaps, having Wi-Fi access, or whether it was having family support. Many of our students found themselves tremendously lonely and isolated, and we really began to struggle from a mental health standpoint. What was also very telling from our perspective, which really caught us off guard, was actually some of the realities of some of our faculty and staff who also are very vulnerable, who also live at or below the poverty line. And again, COVID exposed that scenario because many of our professionals don't have Wi-Fi access, believe it or not, and which made it extremely challenging for us to connect with students as we expected folks to be able to do so. And so I would just say to summarize, I mean, COVID was the great exposure to what we thought, people who you thought were technically savvy were absolutely shocked at the gaps in understanding and how to manipulate technology. The last thing I'll say from an instructional standpoint, the misconception that a lot of people have is that it's no big deal just to take your on the ground course and shift it over to an online format. Well, to successfully engage online learners is a skill set, unique, and people spend their whole careers perfecting how to engage students in a virtual environment. And many of our faculty just are struggling with this idea because the stage on the stage, that interaction with students is something that keeps them going. And so across the board, it really exacerbated people's experiences and what they were prepared for as far as in a digital environment. And we still see that to this day.
That's a great question. And some of the same things happened with our public school district as it did with the college level as well. Dr. C. Brooks made a very good point of that it was exposure. It was exposure for our scholars as well as our staff on disparities amongst their technical needs, what they had and what they do not have. Also, we saw where a lot of our hands-on specialized programs like career and technical education, our band, our fine arts, many of those type of programs that keep students engaged and coming to school. And those instructors, they are experts in hands-on type of engagement and try to get that instruction to go online. It's been difficult. It's been difficult. But one of the great things that we saw is that many of our career and tech students have industry certifications. So they were able to go out and you, as a high school student, use some of their industry certifications in the workforce. So that was one of the blessings, behind it, was for those kids to see a skill set that they achieved during last school year. They were able to use it right off during the pandemic.
I'm glad that you said that. And I actually want to come back to that because that opens an opportunity and certifications. But before we go there, I want to build this story a little bit more for everyone that's watching so they can truly have an understanding of the depth and the brevity of what's going on right now in our educational system on all levels. I was thinking when you all were talking about how many times we talk about the fatigue that's being experienced by our first responders, things that are so bad to where they're just leaving the job. But there have been reports of that also happening in the schools. And I can't imagine what it's doing to the mindsets of the teachers and the students alike. So could you just talk to us about what the mindset is like for these students coming in? Is there still a mindset of the opportunity to go into this place of higher education, to learn, to move forward in the way that they want? Is it depressed now? Just talk to us a little bit more about that, if you don't mind.
Well, from the community college perspective, it's not possible to look at all of our students as a monolithic, right? And so there's a wide range of students and what they are experiencing. In fact, many of our students are doing extremely well, despite the challenges that they face. Some students are absolutely don't know how they're going to kind of get through the semester, and it's been deeply challenging for them. I mean, we've tapped into our foundation and been able to award students emergency aid based off their situations because of the loss of job and that domino effect in the family has really forced a lot of students and families to scramble. And so it's not just about the learning environment. It's their whole environment, which, depending on how stable their situation is, makes it more in flux for their educational experience. And it's been challenging having a handle on that because, again, you think a student's doing fine, but then unexpectedly a job loss or cut in hours kind of throws that students into a crisis, and it can happen at any point in time. So it's difficult to say across the board how students are doing, but I can tell you all students have struggled to some degree at some point during this experience.
Aisha, Whitney, would you like to add to that?
Yes, definitely. One thing that we have done a really good job of, and we're continuing to do, and we're trying to change the culture of our families, our community here in Cedar Hill, is we have more social and emotional support for not only our students, our parents, as well as our staff. So that department has really increased as far as what the output that they're giving and the services that they're providing across our educational community. And like Dr. Seabrook stated, it just, regardless to students who may be exceptional students, students who may be high achievers, all of our students have struggled at some point through this pandemic. We've noticed that some students who, were always taking like a large amount of dual credit AP courses, they had to kind of like scale back and take not as many dual credit or AP courses because it's different to learn online than it is in person. So we've seen that across the board as well in, like I say, our counseling department, our HR communications. We've had to definitely increase the type of social and emotional support that we're giving to our students, our parents, as well as our staff.
We've been having more conversations around trauma-informed care and specifically culturally responsive trauma-informed care that I think has really helped for us to reshape some of the offerings as far as like our mental health and counseling area. I do know that our director of our counseling center has talked about just an increase, which actually we just continue to see as we get students into our campus, that we continue to see an increase in the need for support in that area. And I know that they have been very busy in their office to offer support because, as everyone has said, like students and families and just individuals have been doing a lot, dealing with a lot of trauma. And I'll even say, like, from our HR, they've offered us more of our like EAP services for us as employees to be able to go out and get more support too. So that's definitely something that we're seeing here.
I'm glad that you said that because, there are a lot of resources that some parents and students don't even know that are available. For example, you brought up trauma, and I think about trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy or applied behavior analysis, or even social and emotional learning. As Dr. Lowe was saying a second ago, I could see how helpful these can be for the teachers, for the administration, and of course, for the students. Now, I don't know if that is something that's widespread just yet. And so I want to ask you all directly, starting with you, Dr. Seabrooks, what are some of the things that have been working? You said that you have some students that are doing exceptionally well. Well, what's the difference with them and what the school has done to help them do so well that other schools can learn from? And then Dr. Boyd, Dr. Lowe, add to that as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so I don't want to pretend to have the magic bullet, right? But I do want to share some great things that have occurred for students at Dallas College. So first thing, never underestimate the power of a committed, caring professional, particularly faculty. Our faculty are kind of on the front lines, and at any point in time can be the first kind of line of defense to kind of help students get to the services that they need. And in many instances, that has occurred through our referral service to get students connected, whether it's financially, emotional, or just needing the academic support, making the transition to online. We also have had sustained, fortunately, our robust clubs and organizations. More specifically, our Phi Theta Kappa, which is our honor society, is extremely active. In fact, we had an induction ceremony this past Saturday to keep students engaged and keep them moving forward. And so I think the more activities that kind of keep things in a sense of normalcy, the better chance we have for students to kind of fight through and power through some of the challenges that they're experiencing. Has been some of the best, the good news at Dallas College, in addition to having the support and emergency aid and things of that nature to keep students supported.
Something that I know, like, that I've seen work, as Dr. Seabrooks is saying too, like in the classroom, I taught on Zoom this semester. And so I tried to make myself available, like at the end of class, to stay there for students. And I would tell them, hey, I'll stay here, and for anyone who wants to talk, and just allowing that space, but also allowing grace in the classroom to tell them, like, hey, I mean, I have a lot of I specifically teach honor students. And so they are high achieving and they are very motivated academically. And so allowing them to relieve themselves of some of the pressure, just by like through offering them some grace or even telling them too, like, hey, we're in a pandemic, reminding them that we're in a pandemic. So things aren't the way that they would typically be for us. And even like trying to be vulnerable in some ways to show them that even for me, I'm having to rethink some of the approaches that I take to the things that I'm doing. And I see that on the student side too, as we think about student organizations, we're also dealing with racial injustice and all of that. So what are we doing for our students in that way? I mean, the trauma is like continuing. Like when they say trauma begets trauma, like it is so real. So specifically thinking about like our Black Students Association, seeing them, like they've been really trying to do a number of programming specific to their community that will just allow them to come together. They've had a Netflix party on Zoom because they were trying to do it safely. So they're like literally just something that will give us some community, but we still can reach out to one another. So those are the kinds of things that I've seen just work. Is just making myself available and then watching them to make themselves available and try to build some sense of community.
Yes, and the same here in Cedar Hill ISD. And we have students who are still engaged in student organizations. We don't see as many. A lot of our scholars are in the community working. That's one thing that we notice a lot is that our scholars are actually working to help support the home. But having those student organizations for them to continue to participate in, but as well as those organizations like on the national and state level, they've even transferred over to virtual type of competitions. And that's really great. Just on last week, we had our education pathway who participated in our state career student organization. And so we had about 7 students who advanced on to the, from the district level to the regional level. And so those students are really excited that they're still able to compete. Our DECA, our Business Professionals of America, they're still able to compete even though it's virtually. But one of the things that we're trying to also teach them is that this is our new normal right now. And you know, it will never go back to the way it was. And a lot of things that we did do face to face, it may not be, it may be virtual, which includes working from home. You may not see as many employers have people coming to the office to work. So teaching them flexibility and then also making sure that our instructors, our teachers, our administrators, that they are being flexible as well, because it's our new normal.
Absolutely. And I want to say that I'm glad that we actually got to do this because it was cool to see Dr. Seabrooks just light up right there, tooting your horn. That's good, but you toot your horn, man. I'm excited about that for all of you, actually. And we need to be able to hear those success stories because it helps to encourage others and know that there is a good side to this and that it is possible. And it's possible through our educational system. So thanks for that. And actually, while I'm talking about that, let's just keep it real, if we don't mind. This is not just on the schools. This is not just on the administration. This is a partnership. It's a partnership with the teachers, the students, and even the parents that are in the household or whoever the guidance is in that student's life. So with that said, could you talk to us a little bit about some of the practical things the students can do on their own and the parents can do to help the students to make this a better experience for them? Because we've talked about this prior to, and one of the things I can recall being brought up is with the mindset of these kids, there seems to be kids and adults actually, there seems to be an idea that, you know, this is not here to help me. This is just going to put me in a position like everybody else in a dead end something or not. And that has a lot to do with them more than it does with the school. So please talk to everybody out there that's watching. We're in this together, and let's just have a real family-like conversation, if you don't mind. Dr. Boyd, I want to start with you, and then Dr. Lowe and Dr. Seabrooks from there. Just talk to us about it.
Okay, yeah. So what I would tell my family, since we're talking about family and what we tell family, and what I do tell some of my family, I think we have about 5 or 6 students who are high school seniors. And so what I've been talking to them about is, okay, so we have to be proactive. We have to finish out this year strong. and understanding that right now you're in a virtual environment. More than likely, you're going to enter college in some hybrid format of a virtual environment. So let's develop behaviors and practices now. My hope is always is that our students can develop study habits now. They can develop the tools to ask for help. So unfortunately, God did not grant me with the ability to read minds. I think I know a lot of stuff, but I really don't know a lot of stuff, and I really can't read minds. So I really only know what you tell me, right? So if you begin to ask me questions and tell me that you need help, then I can help you figure out the resources. But I think if we can help our students to develop the skill sets to seek out help in a healthy way, then we can help them to be more proactive. So even in this Zoom environment, if you're taking online classes, if you're in the classroom, start developing that relationship with knowing how to talk to your teachers, your instructors, your professors, whomever it is, because you need to get help early on. I have students who are taking biology and chemistry all at the same time, and perhaps they're struggling in certain subjects, but until they say something, we don't know how to connect them to the resources. There are a number of resources that we can connect you to, but until you tell me what you need, or even just begin the conversation, and then from there, I can try to parse out what it may be, but you have to be willing to start that conversation and being okay with saying that I need help. You may be a 4.5, I don't know, they have very high GPAs in high school, 4.5 student, you get to college, you may need some extra, and that's okay. Like you can be a stellar student, but still get tutoring. Like that's all okay. It can be one and the same. So that's something that I think parents can help. Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is another great topic because I know we always talk about soft skills, and parents may not even, when in education, we always use the term soft skills. But for me, this is where soft skills and hard skills, this is where they meet. And when I'm talking about soft skills, I'm talking about those ethicals, those morals, those habits that we can start forming as early as pre-kindergarten. It's not something that we wait into middle school and high school and the collegiate level for. It's something that parents can be doing right now at home. And having a learning space for their kids, a working space, a learning environment, or even for higher age kids, high school, middle school, having a professional environment. And that's what I always tell kids. You have to have a professional environment regardless of the age level. You could be a kindergarten student, you could be a high school student, but your professional environment, especially in this virtual world, being aware of what your atmosphere is like, like what you're surrounded when you're on virtually, teaching them to don't wait until if your class starts at 10 o'clock, not waiting until 10 o'clock to log on because you may not know what technology is like in your home that day, but log in earlier. Those are skill sets that will forever last. Is when, you can have all the content knowledge, but if you can't get to work in a timely manner, if you can't collaborate, if you can't communicate, then those skills that you've learned, those hard skills that you've learned, you won't be as successful, in my opinion.
Very good. That's right.
Teaching them those soft skills, teaching them how to have a routine, have a schedule. You still can't stay up until 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning and expect to get up at 8 o'clock and be on your best, on your A game. So those are things, that's where we have to definitely partner with our families, with our parents, with our teachers, so we can teach those type of skills and really hone in on those type of soft skills that they need. Like I say, this is where we bridge the soft and the hard skills together. So this is a great opportunity.
I love it.
Yeah, and the only thing I think I can add is helping young people as a family just to be prepared for the unexpected. I mean, there's nothing that you can count on anymore. I mean, things are so unpredictable and things change so rapidly. So just like Dr. Lowe said, I mean, as you prepare for your day, you should prepare for the unexpected. In fact, you should prepare for the worst case scenario. You should have contingency plans on if the internet goes down in the house today, what are my options, and how do we circle to keep moving forward. I would also just say that, I mean, we're all in this together, as a family in my household. I mean, we've designed, our home for us to be able to have different learning environments for people to be successful. And like, there's certain places in the house you can't come anymore because it's mine. and it's what I need, my solitude, for me to be able to move forward. And my boys have the same scenario. My wife for sure has her space. And so, and we've just invested in, the most robust Wi-Fi that our area allows, and just kind of, make that sacrifice, because again, that's our livelihood. That's our
Absolutely.
transportation to work, so to speak. And then the last thing I will say is I just checking in every night, especially if you were fortunate enough to have dinner together, just kind of check in, what went well, what didn't go so well, and to kind of brainstorm with each other without being judgmental, without blowing a top, because, your young person didn't get 2 assignments in again. Just kind of help. Okay, so now what are we going to do about it? And to just kind of brainstorm as a family, and just offer your best ideas together.
I'm really glad that you said that, because one last thing that we cannot deny is that we have COVID that's going on. We have this disposition. It has ruptured things and shaken us up a bit. And so there are things that people are trying to do to, mitigate their trauma, learn at the same times, and the things that we can do to help ourselves in school. There are things that our parents can do to help us to prepare for school, and we can do ourselves. But we cannot escape the fact that there is a social experience that happens before we step foot into a school every day. And what happens in that environment and that experience will affect the way we interact, engage, and experience our education. And so, Dr. Seabrooks, you just alluded to it, from sitting down and having conversations at the dinner table with our children. But if you could, I have about 2.5 minutes left. Dr. Lowe, Dr. Boyd, just give us at least one practical thing that we can do in the homes. This is not doing schoolwork, but that we can do to help garner a healthy environment that will give our kids, give our students a better chance when they go online or into the school. Dr. Boyd, you can go first if you like, and then Dr. Lowe.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I stand still with allowing our kids to explore who they are, and explore new things, and having them not being afraid at that same dinner time. If you can have them explore some new foods. I mean, start off with easing them if you have smaller children, allowing them to explore, because once they get to the college level, like, we're wanting them to explore, we're wanting them to study abroad, we're wanting them to, explore different courses and all that. But if we can remove some of that fear of like trying new things earlier, and I think it just helps the students to build levels of adaptability that will help them to thrive once they are in college, but also once they're in the real world. If they are I didn't know what I didn't know until I started to learn new things. So I really encourage, if it's allowing your child to try karate, or I don't know, whatever it is, or even in high school, pushing them to try organizations, just exploring different things, even different languages, different places. Maybe we can't travel right now, but allow them to watch the Travel Channel, like just allow their minds to explore. And I see that those students who have been exposed to more things, they tend to be more creative and innovative in ways that are helpful to them in the long run.
Somebody's going to shout after this. Dr. Lowe.
And I would say support the change. The parents need to be able to support change. The students need to be able to support change, as well as the educational system. We all have to support this new normalcy for us, but supporting the change and how change looks in different homes and different environments, so that would be my biggest suggestion, is to support the change and to be open and honest with one another. It's a time where families can connect on a different level, and parents, just being open and honest with their kids about, how this change is impacting them. They're becoming from just that parental engaged parents, and now almost being a teacher to their students. So just for everyone to support one another. That's what I recommend. And support the change.
Perfect. All three of you. I want to thank you so much. Again, I just want to turn and look at you. Thank you so much, Dr. Speak, Dr. Boyd, Dr. Lowe. This is wonderful. These are the things that we needed to get out to the public, help people to understand with our current state, but what we can do to affect a change and help to give hope and opportunity in that as well. We are getting ready to close out this part of our series, and we are going to go into our first workshop for the day. So again, I want to thank you, and stay tuned as I will go and join Felicia, and we'll have some final words with you.